Icon Becker is one of the most creative, over-the-top, and larger-than-life people that I have ever met in my life. So when I had the chance to sit down and interview him about his upcoming event, CreatorFest, not only did I jump at the opportunity, but I became very excited about what I learned about it, because there's truly not only no one like Icon, but also there's nothing like what he's building. And so if you have no idea who Icon is, or you're interested in events and maybe hearing about CreatorFest or Icon for the first time, you are in for a treat. And over the next hour to hour and a half or so that I sit down with him, we discuss his backstory, how he got into events, how he made over $20 million with events, and why he created CreatorFest, and what to expect if you plan on attending. So welcome back to the Golden Mic. Without further ado, let's cut over to the interview with Icon Becker. Welcome back, everybody, to the Golden Mic. My name is Josh Forti, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we have, I want to say the man that needs no introduction, but like he definitely kind of does need an introduction. If you've met him, he does not need an introduction. One of my favorite people to watch, the person that when I first met him, I thought he was the most annoying person ever. And then I was like, dang, oh my gosh, am I just like him? No wonder. And then, but like, honestly, like one of the most fun people to watch, most creative minds. I'm very, very excited to bring on the guy that's done over $15 million in events, worked with Gary Vee, Tim Tebow, all the A-list entrepreneur type celebrities, gotten events down to AT, done over 130 live events that he personally and his team have run, over 300 total that he's been involved in. Mr. Icon Becker, welcome.
Wow. You know, I was on with a friend the other day and they said there's nobody that gives a better intro than Icon. And I think today I've been beaten because that was something. That was something. Josh,
well, dude, I appreciate your time. Do you remember the very first time that we met?
Yeah, I'd like to say it was Funnel Hacking Live, but I
it
think
was
it was
actually
another event.
10X down in Miami. Remember this?
Yes, man. Yeah, the start of it all, man. When I snuck into the Diamond Club.
And it was crazy. Who were we with? It was me, you, and one other person.
Steph.
With Steph.
I think it was Steph and Jeff Miller, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember being like, you tried to convince me, and I bought it for a second because I was like, it actually made sense in my head that you were brothers to Alex Becker. And I was like, you guys kind of look alike, right? It made sense in my head.
And stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
at the time, that was when Alex was kind of like doing his thing. He was kind of a little more extravagant, a little more extraneous, and so it lined up.
It did.
You know, I think at that time I was really just trying to figure out like what my place in the world was, and I was like, you know, just for fun, let's see if I can get away with convincing people I'm Alex Becker's cousin. Super weird idea, not what I do anymore, but definitely a throwback.
It was. And it's been, dude, that was years and years and years ago. And I think the last time we talked was FHL last year, so not too long ago, but you know, a fair amount of time. Fill me in, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you been? What you been up to?
I've been crazy. I've been crazy all around. First off, I think the last time we actually got to cross paths was your FHL stage presentation, which was awesome.
Oh, that's right. It was then. It was 2 years ago. Oh, dang.
Yeah. No, time's been flying these days. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we're just getting old.
How old are you?
I just turned 26.
Oh my gosh, dude, you're not getting old. I just turned 30, and I still feel very young. So hopefully that's not old. Yeah.
No, we're super young. But yeah, man, it's been a journey since then, because like basically what's kind of been crazy is we've had it where we started off at that point when we last converged. We were doing still kind of like the entry-esque, I'd say, entrepreneur events, like your little, 80 person, maybe 100 person events here and there. And then shortly after that event was actually where we did our event with Gary Vaynerchuk, which really put us on the map. And then from there, it just went to the roof, man. I mean, since then we've done events with the former director of the FBI. We rented a military warship in London that we converted into an event center. We've done events in castles that I can't name descriptions on. We've done events that, like, if I ever disclose in the rest of my life, like, I will be put in jail for. We have such high profile clients now that the information that just is discussed these things, it's fascinating. So since then, we've scaled out a really large team, and we do events, and pretty much we're just the event guys. Everything from small, intimate, masterminds for 20 people, all the way up to large mega conferences and summits with 3,000 people. Like, that you name it, events, it's our jam.
Dude, that's incredible. And I have so many questions that I want to ask you, because, like, truly speaking, you are probably one of the most interesting people to watch. I mean, in person, yes, but like just from like just online, right? Like every time Like every time you come around, you talk to you, like you're doing something different. Your ideas are larger than life, but then you like go do it, right? And every time, like I remember watching a video from you one time, and you're just like, I just want to go and like tell incredible, amazing stories. Like that's like the whole thing, right? And it reminded me of like
Yeah.
a Mr. Beast with like he just wants to make the best YouTube videos, and you want to just tell these stories and do these events. And like, I have so many questions for you. For those people that don't know, though, let's back up. You've gone through a lot of crazy stuff in your life. How did you get into events? And how did you get into the game of just entrepreneurship, storytelling in general?
Yeah. So taking it all back here, my story began as like I wanted to be a YouTuber, right? And this is going to come full story here in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to be a YouTuber. I was so excited to be a YouTuber. Like as a kid, I didn't have a lot of friends. I would come home every day. I would just watch YouTube videos. Like those were my friends, right? And I watched this one YouTuber for years. And I was so excited. I was making YouTube videos, my friends around the block, all kinds of fun stuff. And one day there was a meetup in my city with this guy. And I was so excited, man. I went out, I waited 11 hours in line to meet my hero. It was supposed to be the best day of my life. And I go up to him and let's just change his name for the sake of argument here. Let's call him Freddie. And I go up to Freddie and I'm like, hey, Freddie, like I've been such a huge fan. I can't wait to grow up and be like you. If you had one piece of advice for me, what would it be? And he looked at me and he said something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. It forever changed the course of how we even interacted today. He said, I wouldn't be a YouTuber. He looked at me, my hero, and said he wouldn't be the one thing that he already was. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he says,
Yeah,
I would build a business first and do this whole YouTube content thing second. That's how I would do it. He's like, so please, he's looking at like the little boy that I am. And he's like, just build a business first. And so I was like, oh, all right, I guess I got to go ahead and start building a business then. So I went out and I started trying all these different types of businesses. We did everything from luxury car detailing to social media marketing left and right, but nothing really stuck. Nothing really stuck too well. And I kept trying this for years and years, and I couldn't get through until one day. One day I was watching Avatar. And the thing is, Josh, and I'm sure you've watched Avatar, right?
yeah.
The one with the blue people? Right.
Yep.
Everybody misses the message in that movie. Everyone misses the message. Everyone thinks that the message in Avatar is like, we need to protect the earth and humans are bad, and et cetera. But there's actually a second message that's super important in there. And it's that, do you remember that scene where Jake Sully realizes there's this giant orange bird that everyone's so terrified of? And they're so terrified of it that nobody has ever tried to hunt or like mate with this, like tame this bird, right? And so Jake Sully has the idea where he's like, if this bird is so big that nobody ever approaches it, then it should be so easy to hunt because it has no predators. And he goes above and he jumps down because he looked for the bird that never looks up. And so I realized, wait a second, I'm going for all of these clients, these gyms, these chiropractors, these mom and pop shops, and they're going to get approached by everyone. Yeah. I just need to go for the birds that don't look up, the clients that don't look up. And so I lived in Fort Lauderdale at the time, and I said, who doesn't look up? Super yachts. We're the super yacht capital of the world. Those guys are selling $30 million boats. Nobody's approaching them and saying, hey, let me tune your email marketing sequence or anything. And so I was like, boom, there we go. Here we are. So I walk in the door, my little envelope portfolio, and I say, hey, I am here to do your marketing. And this guy stands up, his name was Dennis, and he looks at me and he's like, we've been here for 32 years. And not a single person has ever walked through that door and said, I'm going to do your marketing. What makes you think you can do it? I was like, well, Dennis, like you said, it's been 32 years and nobody's done any marketing. Should be a no-brainer. So I ended up getting a job, and we realized that the way to sell expensive stuff wasn't going to be your typical ads. It wasn't your typical email sequences. Like no one's scrolling on their Facebook. It's like, oh, look, $15 million off the Super Yacht. Honey, call the butler, you know?
Yeah.
It was trust. It was brand building. It was content. Yeah. And so we started this idea called tiny TV shows where we would go around the yard, we'd film a boat for a couple hours a day. And then at the end of the week, we make this like 7-minute highlight reel and we would just blast it out to the audience. Right. And so this tiny TV show was just an idea. It was a thought. It was a hope. And the first 5 weeks that we did it, nothing came through. Nobody watched, nobody clicked, nobody commented, nothing. So the client calls me, he's ready to cancel.
And where were you putting it out on?
It was on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, just the normal platforms.
Yep.
And we did a little bit of retargeting ads. So very basic marketing sales. Like I knew nothing about running a business at this point. All I knew was how to make content.
Yeah.
And fifth week, the guy comes to us. He says, hey, this is expensive. It's not working. We're not getting hits. We're going to call out. And I say, give it one more week. Let's just see what happens. The next day, someone calls and says, Dennis, I just watched the Tiny TV show, and I didn't know that you guys do teak decking. I'm in need of a teak deck, and I've been your customer for 10 years. I'll come in tomorrow and get one. And that next day on a super yacht, one phone call, the value of that customer, the LTV is ridiculous. That phone call was worth a $78,000 teak job. So boom, our marketing budget was covered for the year. Yeah. So from there, the guy looks at us. He's like, all right, I'll sign for 3 years. Let's do it. So we start ramping up now. We start making more Tiny TV shows, more episodes, more people. And the super yachts that were watching our shows also sold expensive stuff. So they started calling us in. So the Tiny TV shows expanded out of Fort Lauderdale. We ended up partnering with the Bahamas. We ended up selling private homes in the Bahamas. And this went on for about 6 months until we ended up selling a $23 million private home in the Bahamas just off of this Tiny TV show content. Wild. So I could say that now. We've sold something that cost $23 million through one episode. You could still look it up. If you look up Island Dreams, $23 million island, you'll find the episode. But so at that point, after that commission check, I was about 21, 22. And I was like, okay, we're in the big leagues now. This is it. I've cracked the case. I've done what no one else can. And obviously I was a little pompous shit at the time, but the idea there was, I was like, we've got something, man. Let's double down on this. I'm going to take all the profit investments we have, and I'm going to hire a bunch of videographers, a bunch of editors, production studios, the whole 9 yards. I do all of this. I spend almost all of our profits. We're about to re-sign all of our TV shows for the next year. And the next year was 2020.
Yep.
And so within the span of about 36 days after COVID's announced, we lose everything. We lose all of our clients. We lose all of the momentum. We can't fly out to our client destinations anymore. So we have nothing at this point. And I'm looking around at these 7 videographers, editors, and production assistants that I just hired. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, guys. Like, I'm sorry. You know, like I know I just hired you on for a year commitment, and I don't know what to say here. So I'm in the worst position I've ever been. And I knew that we had to do something with content. We were hoping this was going to go away shortly. It didn't. And so what we ended up doing was we said, let's just try to take anything we did. And for the next 6 months, we took any side gig, any small project we could to figure it out, but money was running out. We were down to the last 2 weeks where we were like, if we don't figure something out, I've maxed out every credit card. I've taken the business loans. I've taken everything. Like, we're done. And I have one of those moments you only can see in movies where I'm sitting on my desk, my hands in my head, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I look at my computer, and the answer was right in front of me the entire time. You see, Josh, in between shooting TV shows, a lot of my entrepreneur friends were hosting events. And so they would call me up and say, hey, listen, I know you have a lot of videographers and staff. Why don't you come and have them shoot our event? And I was like, sure, no problem. And more than just shoot the event, we would shoot the testimonials. In the testimonial section, we would always shoot, what did you love? What did you hate? What could have been done or bet next time? And if you would have done this event, how would you have done it differently? And we did this just as a gift to the client because we thought it was, a nice little touch to make us different from other production guys. And I look at this folder, and the folder's name was Event Testimonials. And the idea went off. I realized that in that folder, we had 1,000 testimonials from live events. Crazy. And better than that, we had different live events. Most people only have the feedback of the experience they have going to an event or looking at their own events feedback. But we had everyone's feedback. And more than that, we had recordings of how the freaking events worked. We had their pitches. We had the education. We knew what modules crushed it. We knew which ones didn't. And so I call up all the guys. I'm like, get every videographer in here right now. We all come over for the next 3 days. We watch all of these testimonials and we say, okay, I think we know how to run events now. So we call up the worst event we've ever seen. This event lost about $80,000 on their event. And we call them up, and they were in the midst of, it's the pandemic. We can't have anyone, et cetera. And we said, hey, listen, we'll always change for the rest of this podcast. I'm just going to change the names for the sake of privacy. But let's call him George. And we say, hey, George, listen, we've got an offer for you here. I know you thought we're a production company. Guess what? We run events now. And we know your last event didn't go too well. So got a crazy offer for you here, man. We're going to run your entire next event. We're going to crush it. And I'm so confident we're going to crush it. We're going to guarantee we're going to make back the money you lost in the last event and then some, right? But we have two conditions. Number one is you have to do everything we say by the book, by the exact way we put it. Number two, you have to pay up front because we were not going to make it another week. We were down our last 7 days. And reluctantly, George goes ahead and accepts. And about 2 months later, we ran his first event and we didn't make the $80,000 back. We made $168,000. So we got his money back and brought the money in return. And so from there on, we were like, all right, we're officially the event guys now. So from there, man, we started running live events for anyone who we ever filmed for. And we were doing these during a pandemic. We were doing these in ways where like we were finding like forests and caves and places that just no one would look. Every gap in the law, like we were taking full advantage of it. And that extended to Miami. Miami was the debuted event. This was the 9th event. We were running events for about 3 months now. And Miami, Ravi Abuvala calls me up and he's like, hey, we want to run an event. And
I knew you did his,
Yeah. And so for him, he was like, it has to be Miami though. And the issue was that even though Miami was fairly lenient on laws, it wasn't cool with having 300 people in one room.
Yeah.
And so the only way you could do that is if you went outside. And if you go outside, then it's like, oh, we have to hire tents and all that stuff. And that's just too expensive. And if we do it inside, then we can only have 13 people. So we were really stuck. And I'm driving in Miami, bashing my head, trying to figure this out. And I happen to drive by this parking garage. And this parking garage was a really nice looking park garage. It had tall ceilings. It was covered on most sides. It was in South Beach. And I was like, wait a second. Let's just do it in the fucking parking garage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like it's got cover, it's got shade, it's got power. We got everything we need. We can fit 300 people in a parking garage. I presented the idea to Ravi and, somehow he was crazy enough to allow me to do it. And about 4 months later, we ran Scaling with Systems in this parking garage, Scaling with Systems live in this parking garage. We had about 300 people from all around the world enter this facility with a real event. Now, the cool thing is in this event, Ravi wanted to do a pitch. And at this point, we've kind of guided some of the sales teams, but we never actually really were behind the pitch. And this time we got the opportunity to sit with Ravi. We worked out the entire day before, the execution, the delivery. And he was like, I want to do $350,000. And I remember looking at that number and being so disappointed because I wanted to do $1 million. I was like, let's just do $1 million. If we do $1 million, no one's ever going to question us about working together again, right? Like, we got to do $1 million. I love you, Icon.
Like, that's exactly it. That's what I'm saying. It's larger than life, dude. It's like, how do we do $1 million?
Yeah, we got to do $1 million. Like, right, if we're going to go for 350, we pulled it off. We're already going to get arrested whether we pull this event off the right way or not. We might as well go for the big one. Right. And so we worked with Ravi the day before. We tweaked the pitch. Ravi was an amazing client, man, just super supportive. And he was so tactical that we followed through. And the next day we do the offer. And Ravi does it exactly the T, exactly the blueprint we created for him. And we ended up not doing $1 million. We did 1.2 million in 4 hours. Crazy. And at that point, that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, we've done it. Like, we are never going to, I looked at all the videographers, every videographer that I hired that we were in that section. Here's the cool thing. We never fired them. We never got rid of them. They were with me to the end. And I looked at those guys. I was like, guys, we made it. Like, it's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Yeah. And I'm driving home that night. I'm singing Sweet Home Alabama. I'm like, this is the best day of my life. I finally am successful. Like, I can't wait to celebrate. And that night, coincidentally, I ended up getting into a car accident. And when I got out of the car, another car came and hit me at 60 miles an hour. And I woke up the next morning in a hospital bed. Picture that. You go from $1.2 million to less than 7 hours later, you're in the ICU, right?
Yeah.
And I remember waking up and then I'm just like, what happened to the event? Like, I'm not aware of anything else going on. I'm like, what happened to the event? Did we hit the million? And my mom's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Goes back flatline. But the obviously I'm here today because miraculously God was looking out for me that day and I made it, right? Yeah. And somehow I was able to total that car with my body and somehow we were able to make a recovery to a very, very good level. And it didn't stop us, man. But here's the cool thing. I was in the hospital for about a week, recovering and just in an intermediate care. I was still in the hospital for about a month, but that 1 week that I was there, I was supposed to run another event in Vegas. And when I woke up, I was like, what happened in the event? And I get a call from my videographer, Christian, and he's in Vegas with the client. And the client's like, Icon, I don't know how you did it, man, but your team crushed it. Everything's okay. It actually even ran a little bit better without you. And you just got one hell of a team, man. You guys really are the best. And shout out Christian, shout out Chad for nailing that one. But after that, I was like, holy crap. Not only like I wasn't worried about my legs or my body being destroyed or anything. I was like, oh my God, my business can run without me.
Yeah.
You know, so at that
Well,
point,
I think that's a big thing for, I mean, like, I think any entrepreneur that has tried to scale a business can like relate with that feeling of like, whoa, like why that's such a significant,
it's
thing.
just a
'Cause
huge
most
leap,
people
right?
it's not.
Yeah, most people can't, but like I think most people also just don't give it the opportunity to. I know I didn't. Like I at no point was ready to say like I'm going to lean off the brakes and let you guys handle it. I just happened to have a car get in the way that kind of forced me to take a sideline. So long story short, man, from there the story of that spreaded. The $1 million day, the event with through the car accident, and even though it was a really dark day, it was a blessing in disguise because we went on to run hundreds of events from there. I mean, people heard about the experience we created, and from then on, we just became the event guys. And every event that we've done since then has brought us 2 more events, and we've done events in 7 countries now. We employ a full team, and we've done just some really awesome stuff. That $1 million day, we've done it 6 more times now in 6 different situations. We've had events that have gotten close to the mark, and it's just been incredible. So we're pretty much the event guys, and the way that we work now is we've built up such an amazing vehicle here that we take 10 events a year. That's all we do. And right now, as of now, we're sold out until March 2025. So
that's amazing.
That's been the story, man. And that's kind of catching everything up to here now for those who, I think that was a really long story, but
you're a phenomenal storyteller for sure.
Thank you.
So well done. So, I mean, we have so much to unpack. We have an absolute ton, and I want to get to, I do want to before relatively soon. I want to talk about your upcoming event because I'm sure you have big plans and vision for this, and I'm very, very curious about that. However, I want to back up. So the premise of like this show and everything that I do is we have this thing called the Golden Mic, right? The Golden Mic's the name of the show. The Golden Mic's the name of the Golden Mic method is our framework. The Golden Mic Mastery is our program. And like my entire life, I can kind of attribute back to most, if not all, of the opportunities that I have created, the relationships that I have created in my life have come through a microphone of some sort, right? A platform, a microphone, a relationship, the people that I've met along the way. I've done over 500 interviews, I think, with this. So for me, this has been the thing that I have found that has like not only changed my life, but has been the thing almost like, how like Brunson like views everything through the lens of a funnel, right? Like that's just how his brain works, right? Like for me, like I view everything through the lens of how do I do an episode, right? How do I have a microphone? How do we record something? If we're going to have a relationship, like the first step is like, let's get on a podcast and record it, right? That's where we get to know each other. If we're going to do deals together, if I'm going to hire you, right? Like all the things like kind of runs through this, as well as like I interview like my pastors and I interview like coaches and everything kind of runs through this thing. For you, it seems as though events have become your version of that, right? And so from is that a correct assessment?
I would say yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So through like thinking about events and thinking about maybe people that maybe they've run an event, smaller one, 5, 10, 20 people, or a lot of people having not run events at all, help them understand like why are events so powerful, and like why do you love events in the way like you have a very, very creative mind, right? Like you have the ability to like literally bring things to life, right? And tell incredible stories. It's through film, through events, through this, through that. Like why have you picked events, and like where does the power lie in your head of running these things?
Yeah, so the biggest reason, the biggest question anyone should be asking themselves when they're deciding whether or not they should have an event is, if I had all of my clients in a room together for 72 hours, what would happen? Right? What would happen? Would we have an amazing time? Would we laugh and make some jokes? Would we build a better relationship? Would we get some get some major problems taken care of? Would we be able to build a ton of momentum? Would we film content, right? Ask yourself that question if you're listening right now. If I was locked in a room with my clients, for all of my clients, for an entire weekend, what would it accomplish? And for everyone, the result's a little different.
Yeah.
But there's usually breaks down to three things. The number one is organic ascension, right? So when you're thinking about bringing someone into that top tier program, that offer, a lot of times it requires trust. It requires the ability to learn and build that relationship with a person that a sales call just can't do. And when you're making something like a 40, 50, 60, 80, $100,000 offer, you need to create that in-person connection before you really start leaning. Don't get me wrong, it's possible, but that's usually the first area, is creating a weekend experience where someone feels comfortable and connected with you so that they're able to move forward, that organically ascend to them to the next stage. The second one is community, right? Everyone and their mother is a coach these days. And it's becoming harder and harder to differentiate yourself from the pack, even from the way that you frame your offers, even from your deliverables. It's becoming hard. And what is the biggest element that's separating, allowing people to stand out from the pack? It's what you're doing right now, Josh. It's personal branding, right? It's getting behind that individual, getting behind that person. And so essentially the future of the internet is not the follower. It's not the email list, right? It's the community. And think about, I'm going to go on a little tangent here, but like, think about the direction we're taking in the internet as a whole, right? We started off where the original internet was, I like your content, I follow you, right? And every platform adopted this. For YouTube, I subscribe to you. But over time, that follower became less and less useful. It became less and less connected. It was more distance. Now we have the largest platform in the world, TikTok, which has removed followers entirely. Think about it, Josh. If I asked you what was like your top 10 favorites.
I'm not on TikTok. I didn't know that.
Well, okay. Well, let me, like, the average experience for most people, you can still follow people on TikTok, but here's the thing. When you ask people, and try this out, if you ask people what is their top 10 favorite TikTokers, they're not going to say, oh, it's Josh Forti, I love that guy. They're going to say, oh, I love the guy with the mic, you know, like the guy that does the skits, or, oh, have you seen like the guy who does like the wood cutting? Like that's the nature of it now. We've switched the platforms. That's why it's called the For You page, because they don't believe in followers anymore. They believe in what's for you, right? So the next era of the internet is creators are shifting more towards having their communities. They're shifting towards owning their community. That's why school just got $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's
so
because
I'm an investor in school. Like, before it was cool, a couple years ago. Thank you very much.
You were the OG.
To be clear, I was like an OG user, but like in beta when it was released, I was on that platform using it. And then Hermosi came along, which I love it. I'm like, great, make me rich, right? But like also like before the hype. But that was the thing that I saw back then, which was like, I mean, Sam Ovens' mind is just, I mean, it's Sam Ovens, right? But like in a platform, and what he understood about communities, and how, like, I feel like Facebook just fumbled the bag, dude.
Bag fumbled. They had the bag.
So much.
They didn't flip it and tumble it. They just dropped it and fumbled it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
anyway,
that.
Continue.
Think about it. Look at the writing on the wall. The direction of the internet, these billion-dollar companies, they're all moving towards community. YouTube has a built-in subscription service now where you can be connected to your favorite server. Patreon is one of the fastest growing creator finance platforms, right? Like, community is the next direction. So where does community line? Well, community lines virtually in these virtual communities, but it also aligns in person, right? In-person communities, AKA events.
Yeah.
So when you think about like, what is the future? Like, listen, I don't know about you, but I don't remember the last time that I've gone to a virtual event before. You know, it's like, it's, I think the internet as a global collective is shifting away from these and now focusing back on in-person.
I think the only time I would do that is if I want to attend an in-person event and I can't make it in person and I was going to attend virtually. Yeah. That would be the only thing. Other than that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And virtual events are still great, by the way. Like we run a couple, but it's like the shift is it's becoming more of a priority and more of a reward to run these in-person events. So repeating all of this, the number one, the top three biggest returns from events is organic ascension for your attendees, 2, expansion of your community, right? Managing that community, because after a period of time, you're like, if you look at Alex Schlinsky with POD, they have had the same offer and deliverables for 4 years, but the community of POD is still renewing year over year over year.
Yeah.
It's not because of the deliverables or the offer or the done for you elements. It's because of the community. It's because of those in-person experiences. And that's how you stand yourself out. And lastly, if nothing else of the above two applied to you, it's content, right? Think about the amount of, we live in a content driven society. Attention is the biggest focus. And if I can have it where I can get some big cameras, a big stage, I can have a screen next to me and I can walk through my presentation, I can film a course for the weekend. I'm in a way just asking people to pay to watch me film my content, you know? If it would just go through that avenue. And so I think those are really the three biggest things people need to consider when they're thinking about an event is ascending their members, community expansion, and then obviously just content. You know, knocking out a year's worth of content in one weekend is pretty damn appealing.
Yeah. And I have questions on this, but I actually want to discuss, like, I actually want to have a conversation with you about a couple of things that I'm curious to get your thoughts on. I think right now I want to talk about your event coming up, because I think this kind of leads perfectly into that. And so we'll talk about that, and then we can come back and kind of pick up, because I have some questions about structurally how these things will work, but I think it would be best for that. So you made a big announcement, right? You got my attention with it on social.
Yeah.
Hey, I put all my money into this. I'm risking everything, right? And you know, listen, I gotta tell you, bro, like, I'm a marketer. I hate it, but I am. Here we are, right? And I don't like most marketers, right? Like, most people do marketing so terribly. It's like the biggest, well, and it's all hype and all fluff, and you know what I mean, right? Dude, like, you killed it. Like, you got my attention. You held it. It was good. Like, it was very, very well done. And it was like one of those things where I'm like, okay, this was actually good. I'm excited for it. I'm intrigued. You did it very, very well. So you've got an event coming up. I'm going to turn it over to you. Fill us in.
Yeah. So effectively, I believe that, I think a lot of, I was speaking with Jeff Miller, who we both are good friends with, but Jeff Miller has a really great analogy, which is like,
sorry, real quick. When you move that mic, it kind of like, so if you just,
oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right, yeah,
you're good. Yeah.
I guess. Thank you. So we're both good friends with Jeff Miller. Jeff Miller has this great analogy, and the analogy is it's the never-ending finish line, right? And that most entrepreneurs get to this point where they say, okay, when I make 100K a month, then I'll do the thing I wanted to do. And then they get to 100K and they're like, okay, I've got 100K, but maybe I should be at 150 before I start. Then they get to 150 and they're like, okay, well, maybe I should bring in a CEO. And what happens is they have this finish line that they've set in their head of, when I cross this finish line, I will finally do the thing that I set on this whole entrepreneur journey to do. And you've probably got one too, right, Josh?
I do, yeah.
Like there's a benchmark you had in your head where it's like, hey, when I hit this point, then I'm gonna settle. I'm gonna maybe step back from the business and, you know, become a father. Which, by the way, congratulations.
Yeah, I am a dad, bro.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
That was you came right into it, man. So it's like everyone's got this finish line. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think where a lot of times we start losing passion with the game is because we keep getting to the finish line and then we're like, oh, well, let me push it a bit more and then I'll get this, and then I'll keep going. And for me, that finish line was what that guy Freddie told me, you know, almost a decade ago of, hey, build a business and then you can do the YouTuber thing. And I kept telling myself, okay, well, when we get to 100K a month, then I'll be a YouTuber. And we did. And I was like, okay, well, when we do $1 million in a day, then I'll be a YouTuber. And then we did. Okay, well, when I have 5 editors, then I'll be a YouTuber. And then we did. And yet here I am, all this money, all this experience later that we've generated for other people, that we've done so much good. And I'm still not what I wanted to do when I set out. I love the events we make. I'm so grateful for the friendships I've made like ours and the people and the experience I've gotten to have and the places I've gotten to see. But at the end of the day, Josh, like, if I looked at the 10-year-old version of myself and I said, like, hey, by the way, we did all of these things, the only response he would have back is, well, are we a YouTuber yet? And it would break my heart to let him know, no, I never got there. And so the question that then precludes is like, well, why not? Right.
Well, hold on. Can I actually ask one interjecting question right there? I don't want to break flow because, like,
take it.
You're phenomenal, but I do have a question. Do you still want to be a YouTuber though? Like, has your goal changed? You do? Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think my goal was always, just like I said, like you mentioned earlier, my goal is always to tell stories, tell great stories. And YouTube is just one mechanism of that. But that was the idea, was traveling the world, making fun videos with my friends and like telling awesome stories. And in a way we do that. But I didn't go into it the way I wanted to. I haven't put the effort and input in because I've been so pulled away. Like events are not easy. Most people get stressed out running one event, and we're running dozens of events a year. So it's like, it is a hectic, is a very time and of course, physically intensive job too. So I went to an event earlier last year where I said, you know what, I'm putting my foot down. Like I'm going to this event, I'm going to catch in with the industry trends, and I'm going to see how kind of everything's flowing so far, because obviously I know production, obviously I know editing and camera work, and I am a good actor on camera, I'd like to believe, but I'd like to see what the algorithms let's see what the algorithms got going on, just so I can make sure I start on the right foot. And I go to this event, and instead of taking notes on what I should be doing for the YouTube for my channel, instead I found myself being like, this event is supposed to be the best.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the event that's like the event for the business side of content creators.
Yeah.
And I was just remembering looking at myself and thinking, I'm so disappointed. Like I wanted so much more out of this. And I started writing a list of how I would do it better. And I go to a bar later that night. I'm sitting there and I'm on the phone with my mom, and I'm like telling her all about this stuff. This guy taps me on the shoulder and he's like, hey, Mr. Big Shot, I hear how you're talking all this smack about X event. How would you do it better then? And I was like, well, let me tell you, sir. So I walk him through the entire list. And over about 40 minutes, this guy's face went from like arrogant, like, let's see what this guy has, to, oh, he's onto something. And that conversation changed to, what do you need? And how do I help you make this happen? And for me, the biggest element was, I just don't have a foot in the industry. I don't have a connection to get me to the larger YouTubers. I'm not on a first name basis with Shopify. Like that's what I'm struggling with. And so the guy's name is Patrick.
Bro. That's what you need.
Yeah, right. I know.
You need to go with Mike, bro.
Well, I'm excited you mentioned that, because we are that's coming. We'll stand by for that one. But the guy's name was Patrick, and he said, you know what? Well, congratulations, man. Nice to meet you. I'm Patrick. I'm actually a talent manager for some of the largest names in the game. And I was like, holy crap, this is it. This is the sign. And so the idea hit me was that whoever's listening to this podcast, if you want to quote, quote, cut the line, and you want to jump ahead and just max your authority out in any niche, the answer is always run an event. It doesn't have to be through me, but always run an event, right?
No, I would agree with that, especially if you're trying to collapse time down too, right? Because there are definitely plays that take a long time that will give you authority and things. But I would 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, so I could start my channel again, and I could, start posting content here and there. And, I've got an audience right now of about like 15,000. I was like, I could start leveraging that and work from the ground up. Or I could just make the event, get the biggest creators in the space in the room, and then work with those guys instead. Win-win, right? They get a win out of it because the events that have existed in the space really aren't up to par, at least for the ones I've been to. And the events, and for me, I get to partner with these guys. So this boiled down. We sat down and we said, okay, well, how do we make this event incredible? What do we make it different? And we realized that there's a major gap in the online internet space. And that is, you have people like yourself, Josh, that are entrepreneurs, and they are now trying to become creators.
Yep.
And because you understand the perplexities of production, SOP, I need delegation, I need to output. You understand that really well. Creators, on the other hand, are kids who kind of make faster money, but they don't have that same level of operational capacity.
Yeah.
Right? They don't sit there and say, like, these YouTubers that are blowing up, these TikTok kids that are blowing up, they're not saying, okay, we need to take a percentage of income, put this into building out our content line. We need to have a downline, editors, all that stuff. They don't have that. So entrepreneurs are trying to become creators, and creators are trying to become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of amazing people who are supporting them, like Marley Jacks and yourself, and you're helping people kind of build out their message and brand on the entrepreneurs becoming creator sides. But in the creators becoming entrepreneur side, there's almost nothing.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing. There was this event, and that was it. And so that's where I had the idea, was we need to make the event where creators become entrepreneurs, and thus CreatorFest was born. And so CreatorFest is a festival of creatorship, right? It's a ideology that we didn't want to just make the YouTube event. We wanted to make a place where different creators in different industries could go to learn how to monetize, how to grow, and how to avoid essentially being broke and being burnt out.
Yep.
And so this is not the event for YouTubers. This is the event for X, whatever the hell people on X are called. This is the event for Snapchatters. This is the event for
I still
people who
call
are
it
going
Twitter.
on
I love
Patreon.
Elon, but I'm like, bro, it's Twitter.
Yeah, I call it Twitter. I call it Twitter too. It's like it's always going to be tweeting to me. Like if I'm not gonna say, oh, I dropped a post on X. It's I dropped a tweet.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the ideal. Let's get all of these different creators in one room and let's collaborate. Let's share ideas, and let's also bring in the guys that are at the head of the creator industry, the creator economy, that are bringing in millions of dollars a year through their channels, and allow them to produce that and share those secrets in mass market. And so that was the first half of it. And the second half, is what you just mentioned there, Josh, was we can't have a creator-based event and not have the opportunity to create. So we wanted this to be not a conference. A conference is where you have one stage, you have an audience, and then maybe there's some sponsorship outside. This is a festival, meaning that there's multiple stages, and you can choose your own adventure based on what you want to attend, right? So we have a main stage for the main creators. We have a business stage. We have a side room for workshops. And then we have people like Josh, who maybe are podcast creators, right? So we have actual multiple podcast stages set up. So you'll be able to go to the event and say, hey, let's actually get into the podcast room and record a live podcast there in person, right? Knock that out for the weekend, right? And we have multiple ones of those. We have it where, and not just in the podcast realm, we also have a a streaming lounge. So we have major gaming streamers that are going to come in. We're going to have like 40 gaming PCs lined up. We're going to have major streamers there, and you'll be able to jump in, sit down, and actually play with them. And so that was the idea, was that let's fuel this combination of like, let's get the biggest creators in the game that are actually making money. They're making money and they're building brands, not followers. Because like I said earlier, followers don't mean that much anymore. They're not that valuable.
For sure.
You know guys that have like 10,000 followers and are making millions of dollars a year, and guys that have millions of followers and they're broke, right? So that was the idea of the event.
So, real quick, where can people find out about it? Because for anyone listening.
Yeah, so it's going to be CreatorFest.events, no special characters or anything. .events is plural. There is another CreatorFest in London, so that's not where our event is. Our event is a 4-day event in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be this August, and that's where you can find out more.
So anything else? Because I got questions. Like anything else?
Josh, I came here for you to grill me. I came here to get deep. Let's do some questions.
Yeah. Let's do. Okay, so I got some questions. First off, how are you funding this event? And like, yes, I know the marketing story. I'm putting all my money into it or whatever, but I'm like, do you need funding? Are you looking for investors? Because
I mean, I
of your friends might write you checks.
I definitely think I've got a really great relationship of people that would write me some checks. And we are looking to funding. Essentially, when you are running an event, right? There is costs that I think are non-negotiable. Like I always feel like people should have quality food. The AV should be good, like these things. So knowing my quality minimum for this event, it's going to at least cost $500,000 just on the minimum side to get this thing pulled off. And that's not factoring in speaker fees, flights, all that jazz. So when I was looking at the math of this, I was like, if I'm going to pull this off, I've got a very short window to do it. Number one, I would have to hit 3 boxes. The first one is I would have to do it before the big events, the other big creator events next year. And so we are now 2 weeks before those guys. So we've got a small home field advantage. Second, I'm going to need to leverage the hell out of organic connections, because the people who I'm going up against, they've got tens of hundreds of millions of followers compared to me with my 15, right? So it's like, we are now trying to put our nose in there. So, and then the third was effectively is like, how do we make it where we invest into the areas that will support those creators? Like I said, like getting a streaming lounge is not cheap. Getting these podcast studios, like I don't want to just have 2 mics on a table set up. Like I want to have something that looks beautiful. So someone who isn't a Josh Forti, but is doing a podcast and wants to have that beautiful piece of content, like we want to build those stages for them. So right now I'm 100% fully I've invested. I'm self-funding the entire thing myself. And I'm very fortunate to all of our clients that have supported Clever throughout the year. Very grateful to all of you guys because it's allowed me to achieve my dream. We are still seeking investors. And so we have been in talks with some individuals. And if you're interested in that, you can hit me up at Iconic Becker. But outside of that, I'm 100% self-funding it. And the reason why I made that post was because this is either going to make me or break me. And I know a lot of marketers like to They like to have some emails where they're like, oh, you know, this is my craziest idea yet. But this was transparently, Josh. I don't know if we are or not allowed to curse on this podcast.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
assume,
that's fine.
I think we are. Yeah, this was
yeah.
fucking stupid. My
Yeah.
accountant called me and was like, are you dumb? Are you looking at this? Because the numbers don't make sense. And the only reason, Josh, that I felt confident enough to pull this off was because I've done so many favors and I've given millions of dollars in event budgets to event companies over the years that I've earned enough relationships in the space to say, hey guys, it's time for me to call those favors back. Like I need a discount on the AV. I need a discounted venue. So essentially for what I'm putting down, I'm investing everything I own into this event. And I hope hopefully 5 months from now we can have another conversation and agree that that was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and so this kind of brings, okay, so like going back to, like I said at the beginning, the type of person that you are with, you know, larger than life, you know, things of that nature. One of the things that I would say that I've admired about you, and definitely inspiring for sure as well, but like I think that, you know, it could be double-edged sword as anything, is like you and I both have a tendency to go all in on things, right? Like it's, here we go, right? Like it's make or break, right? When I'm like, I got $8 grand left in my bank account and I'm like, this is the coach I need to hire and she's 60 grand. I'm like, here's all my money and I'll come up with the rest next month. And I don't like, let's roll. Right. So like 100%. And you've kind of aligned your life around that to where it is truly a make or break, which I think, knowing you, I have no doubts. I think it will, I mean, barring an act of God, right? I think it's going to absolutely crush. But when you're that committed to something, at least in my life, it's more than just the event, right? It's more than just the thing, right? There is a future vision. There is something that you're trying to build and create and go long-term, right? So help me understand first. Actually, let's go this way first. Help me understand first, how do you make decisions? Like what do you value in life? Like, what is it that you're trying to, like, you know, for me, like my values obviously include my family, but even deeper than that, it's like my relationship with Jesus. Like, I'm a very like faith-based individual, family-based individual, values-based individual, right? Like, I make my decisions through this lens. It hasn't always been that way, but now it is, right? And that leads me to go and do these things. I'm willing to take bigger risks or go in if it aligns with these things, if I feel called, right? So like for you, first and foremost, not where you're going yet, but like, how do you make decisions, and what do you value that you're hoping this aligns with? If that's the right question.
Yeah, I think I've got it here. So, how do I make decisions? I'd love to have some very delicate answer that's just like, here's my process and I evaluate the risk and I weigh the cons. But at the end of the day, man, I got hit with a car. You know, and not just like hit with a car at like 5-10 miles an hour. This was 60 miles an hour. My body totaled the engine block of the car. The doctor said there's no way you should have been able to walk away from this accident. And so for me, the way I look at it is like, I was put here to do something incredible. And what that is, I'm hoping to find out if I haven't yet. But this is all just the bonus level, you know, like for me in that accident after that and walking away from that and seeing what happened and physically going to the car and seeing this giant dent in the middle, knowing that was my body caused that. Everything from here, Josh, it's like I survived. So like, what is this going to kill me? That car didn't kill me. Yeah. Right. So what, this event's going to kill me? Pfft, no. Right. It's like, it doesn't mean that I'm unstoppable and I'm just recklessly going to throw myself off a cliff and be like, I'm bulletproof. But it means that like, I'm here to recklessly chase the greatest story yet. I'm here to recklessly chase the greatest story yet. And by doing so, I've been so fortunate to be blessed with a team that when I come to and I'm like, guys, I've got this crazy, insane idea. Like, let's do it. They're like, okay, cool. Here's the reality of that. Here's the numbers. Let's put it into place. But I'm big on, at the end of the day, like, what's the worst we can lose, right? The worst we can lose is money. Right. Right. The worst we can lose is money. And that's not maybe the best way to think. And I'm not advising that's going to be the most financially sound advice. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you have something you believe in, like, I don't want to be in another, I know what it's like to be in an ICU now and to be told like, hey, we don't know if you have internal bleeding in your lungs. And I know what that's like. And I know what it felt like to be there and be like, I have regrets. There's things I didn't do. And when I was on that deathbed, For me, it was I didn't make the fucking YouTube channel.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so when I think about this, it's just a no-brainer. It's
Yeah.
a no-brainer for me.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, worst thing is like I'm 26. I could move back home. I've still got 10 more years to start from zero and work my way back up if I had
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. So with that, then now let's go this event and beyond, right? Because I'm gonna wrap in a side tangent. I'm gonna come. Remember, I told you I wanted to come back and have some.
Yeah.
I got some questions, so I'm gonna wrap in. We're gonna kind of come to this, and I'm gonna bring it back to like what are you creating with this event, not just for the event, but ongoing. And I want to come back to the thing that you were talking about when you said with an event, you've got three main things, right? You have organic ascension, you have community, and you have content, right? Which I think is very very spot on, right? And you talked about particularly with the community aspect of things, how like followers mean almost nothing anymore, or going down in value. Community is continuing to go up in value. I would 100% agree with that. Think about, I want to ask you about the difference between networks and communities, right? Because in my life, like community is, I mean, I'm not downgrading the importance of community in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I'm saying in my life right now, one of the things that I have been studying a lot is networks, relationships, and like, the cliche saying your network is your net worth, right? Like in a way, it's very true, right? So like, what do you see are the differences of a community versus a network? Yeah, let's start there. Like, what do you think are the big differences between a network and a community?
That's a great question. I would say that your network is in part people that haven't fully bought into your community, right?
Have not fully bought in yet?
They're not fully bought into your community.
Okay.
Case in point, right? So your community is your raving fans. This is people who are like, hey, whatever you do, man, I'm behind you. I will support you, right? Like, Josh, you are my community. You called me up. You said, like, let's get this idea out. I love it, right?
Yeah.
That's community. With CreatorFest, I had AV guys that have worked with me for years that have watched us grow from giving them $10,000 contracts to $200,000 contracts. Said, hey, man, whatever you need, I've got your back. Shout out Dylan.
Yep.
But when your network, it's people you know. And it's people you're able to say, hey, you know what? Hey, guys, here's my idea. You already know. You've seen what I've done so far. You've seen the results of what I've been able to create. But I'd love to see if you can support it. And now you're putting the ball in their court, whether they can or not. And, with CreatorFest, I had friends that I gave so much effort to. People in my network that I gave editors to. I got on with their creation teams. I got on with their production teams. I helped out their events all for free over the years because I was like, one day this is going to equivalent to something. And when the time came for CreatorFest, I called them up and I said, hey, I've got this idea. I'd love for you to support. I'd love for you to help out. And unfortunately, I was met with nothing. I was met with left on red. And so when I think about my network, it's the place for me to pull people into my community. And it's kind of like the pool of people who know me, but don't put their dollar behind me. My community is who puts my dollar behind me. Like they will bet on me every time.
Okay. So then and I'm in learn mode here. I'm curious to know your thoughts here, right? So I have no ulterior motive. I have no alternative to this. So then think about like, I don't know, like think about the kind of more invisible minds of the world, right? Like, I mean, you know who Sam Ovens is. He was big for a while, but like most people that are on school have no idea who Sam Ovens is, right?
Yeah.
Like he's behind the scenes now and he's this brilliant mind, right? And he's got, there's a lot of people like him that they're not on social media. Maybe it's quiet money. It's brilliant. They're engineers. They're this or that, whatever. They don't want the big, massive flash, right? So if I have a network of them, if I have relationships with these people, Brad Gibb would be a perfect example, right? Brad Gibb is a very, very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, right? Very, very wealthy individual, very intelligent individual. I mean, he's raised tens of millions, probably over $100 million, probably like for his companies and, things like brilliant. Also, like, I mean, maybe I'd categorize him as a raving fan. I mean, he would call me up and certainly support me, but like, is inner circle the right word? Is there like an inner circle?
Yeah.
I think, does that make sense? Like,
I think the issue that marketers have created is that community is related to a digital platform, right? Like community is this digital place where this is this bucket it has to be digital. That's where it is, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be. When you go back 200 years and you think of the tribal Native Americans, right? Like that was their community. It was just the people they knew that they could call upon.
Okay.
We could even argue that it's the difference between like my friends and my best friends, right? And
Okay.
it's like my
Yep.
best friends are the people who, if I was in a crisis, they would come to my aid. My friends are the ones who would call me and say, I'm sending thoughts and prayers, right? Like that's the difference. And so your network is like, I think it's basically you have cold traffic, you have cold audience that doesn't know who you are. The network is who is aware of your accomplishments and they're aware of who you fit into the world. And then your community are the people who would buy into that idea, right?
Okay.
And then whether that's digital or physical, it's
Yep.
up to you.
Okay. So now help me understand one last piece here on this, which is I would have done those in my brain. I would have reversed those and I would have said that, and I'm not saying it's right because I think you make a point here with the whole just digital thing, but I would have been like, there's cold traffic, right? There's, cold audience. Maybe they've heard you, maybe they haven't, like, oh, I've seen one piece of content from you or whatever, or they're unaware of you entirely, right?
Yeah.
Next level is, oh, I know who that is. I like that person. I resonate with his message or her message. Like, I'm in that community, right? I'm in that world, if you will, right? And then people that I have a personal relationship with, that I've met in real life, that I have, that I have their number, I could hit them up. I may or may not get it, but like they're in people that I could reach out to directly. That would be a network, right? Maybe I've had a podcast episode with them, maybe I've had dinner with them or whatever. So if you were to split the two, what's the difference between the person that's a raving fan that has never met you, right? They've followed you online or they've seen your content and they are like, they buy everything, right? That you put out there, they follow you, they engage with your content, they're in your membership, whatever. And the person that you've met in person that you have a relationship with, right? Who also might be a raving, like also could be that level, but like you have a much deeper connection with that person. Is there a difference in how you would categorize those people or not?
I honestly say it would all boil down to belief, man. I used to think that there was a difference between what you just said there of like, okay, I have friends that have been there for a long time. But I mean, like, dude, when I launched this event, I had friends that have been my friends with me for 10, 12 years that have supported me and done all these things. But I came down to it, I was like, hey guys, like I've never made an ask before, but this is the event I would love to get your support behind. Crickets. But people I barely knew, but they believed in the idea of this event. They believed in me. Had no hesitation grabbing a ticket to it, getting behind it. So at the end of the day, the difference between your raving fans, if you will, and the community, I guess, or the network as we just declared there, is simply belief. It's I believe in you at this moment, and that's why I'm supporting you.
Okay, that actually makes sense and that's really helpful. Okay, so then let's go back to the event side of things, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm much more of an entrepreneur now, but when I got into this journey, I was definitely a creator, right? I mean, my background, Instagram, 7-8 million followers, grown, managed, right? On there, like lots of followers, lots of vanity metrics, knew the algorithms, didn't make any money, right? Like $5,000 a month take home, woohoo, like whatever, right? Now my following is much, much smaller, but also I make way more money, right? Like, because I know business now, or I'm learning business and I know marketing and sales really well, right? So I'm looking at this and I go, you are not an idiot. So don't play dumb here. All right. So like you're like, like how things work and structurally and things of that nature. Right. So like big picture, the event that you're building here isn't everything. It has to fit into some bigger, like it's not just Becker's going to throw this event and then that's it. I'm done. I'm going to peace out into there's some bigger plan.
Peace. I'll see you guys later,
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're going to just like literally, hey, my whole plan is throw this event, make $5 million, cash out and, go start my YouTube channel in the Bahamas and, never leave and, smoke weed and do yoga. Maybe like, I kind of doubt that. Right. So like when I think of a podcast, when I think of the event, like it is either a tool to build up the brand or to build something bigger, or it itself is the thing and it will be done over and over and over and over again. And it's just like, that is the business, right? So with yours, is this a tool or is this the business?
So that's the magic that, Josh, first off, I just want to say you're awesome at asking questions.
Thank you.
And I actually remember driving to that yacht job and listening to your podcast on the way to it. So this has been a long time coming. It was about the episode with Eminem, I specifically remember. But anyways, so is this the thing or is this the business? Ultimately,
is this the tool? Is it the tool or is this the business?
Yeah, and I don't know is the flat answer, because here's where we're at right now. the best thing about an event is that when you build it and you get the right people in a room, magic always happens, right? Masterminds are some of the oldest concepts in the world. In fact, actually, just taking a note on that, do you know where masterminds come from? Like, do you know what the first ever documented mastermind was? Okay, so the idea of the word mastermind.
Was it Jesus Christ and the 12 disciples? Because that would be dope.
Unfortunately, no. But essentially, the idea of a mastermind was that if you get two brains together, right, then they will merge thoughts and then create this third intangible brain. That's the concept of the mastermind. But the first ever documented mastermind was a mastermind called the Leather Apron Club. And it had a very smart man known as Thomas Jefferson who would meet with all kinds of different individuals like mathematicians, librarians, politicians, artisans, like all of these different individuals. They would just meet on a weekly basis and they would say, hey guys, we're locking ourselves in this room for 3 hours. We're just going to collect ideas, right? And eventually they had this awesome idea and it was called the Declaration of Independence, right? And so the first ever mastermind actually gave birth to America. And read up on the Leather Apron Club. It's super cool. But
I'll have to check it out.
The best thing is that if you just get the right minds together, great stuff always happens. And so for me, my initial thought was, I'm just going to get the right minds together and something great's going to come from it. And in the 60 days that we've been building this event and that we've been launching it, excuse me, there's already been so many steps that we can go towards now, right? We've had creators that are coming in that now that we're getting as speakers, they're talking to us about how they have production issues. So it's like, okay, cool. We actually have a surplus of editors and content creators at Clever, the events company. We could support you guys there. Maybe we just start becoming the production unit for YouTube videos. We have other guys. We had, we were so excited about this. We had Snapchat, the fucking Snapchat called us and they were like, hey, we've never ran an in-person event before, and we would like to start getting into in-person events. Is it all right if maybe we have a portion of your floor space that we can devote as like a snap school, right? Okay, cool. So now there's this new idea that came out. And so as it stands right now, this is not something I'm just doing for the money because trust me, like after looking at the finances of this, there's not much money to be done. But but this isn't something that I'm just going to do once. I didn't put myself through all this work to do once. Like we've built this thing out to grow and expand year over year. And we're already in talks for 2025 with just the venue itself, which is awesome. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe that when I get all of the right people in this room and I get the right speakers in there, what comes next will just simply come from it. And that came from me going to an event that I didn't enjoy. And that event led to this event being CreatorFest. Yeah. So ultimately right now it's a thing, but it will be a business. We just don't know what that is yet. Yeah. But I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be one hell of an event. Yeah. No matter what.
How many people, I mean, I don't even know if you know, but how many people are you expecting?
We're expecting 1,000. We're on target for 1,000 people. That's how much we can cap out the venue at. And we've got like one of the most brand new hotels in Orlando too. It's super badass. Like, and we have a total buyout of the hotel too. So we have like multiple floors. We have extra rooms. We have like extra conference areas. So that's why we have so much space to make these like extra podcast lounges and activations and just all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, it's right there in Disney World too. So, you know, if you want to come and check out the event and then go to Disney World right after, it's a 2 for 2.
I am not a fan of Disney World. I went one time and I'm like, I don't get it, dude. I don't get it. Yeah, but that being said, though, Brunson, whenever we go down to FHL, he rents out the theme park for Inner Circle or whatever, right? So, like, my wife's a huge Harry Potter fan, and so one time he just rented out all of Harry Potter World, and so we were spoiled. You go down there and it's like you have no wait for any of the rides. You have unlimited food and drinks or whatever. I was like, okay. We can do Disney World if this is how Disney World is done. But
so is it Disney World or Universal, or is it Disney World or just theme parks in general? You don't enjoy.
I mean, if I'm gonna go to a theme park, it should have good rides, not lame rides. Like I like Cedar Point. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, but like they have like the fastest roller coaster in the world, right? 0 to 140 miles an hour in like 7 seconds or something like that, right? Like it's up and down.
I want to taste death.
Yeah, right. Like if I'm gonna go to a theme park and I wait in line, I'm gonna buy the VIP pass so I wait in as little lines as possible. I'm gonna ride roller coasters. I'm gonna leave. Right. Like the whole whatever. That's just my thing. I get people love it. I just don't get it.
I hear you.
That said, okay, from a creator perspective and from an entrepreneur's perspective, I think I probably have a mix of both. But I would say I probably have more on the entrepreneur side. People listening, right? I want you to think of maybe the little bit more advanced entrepreneurs, right? The people that are like me, the, you know, 7, multi-7, maybe even some 8-figure entrepreneurs and whatnot that are watching you pull this off, right? And like going, okay, you obviously and clearly know what you're doing. What should we watch? Like, how do we, I mean, like, yes, get a ticket, come, like, obviously that part of it.
Yeah.
But like, I've found that in my life, like, oftentimes I learn the most by simply being in the room and observing rather than, you know, the thing itself, right? Or like, you know, some coaching program, right? So what should we be watching? And like, what's the opportunity there?
So the opportunity here is that the event itself is not for beginners. That's a big thing. First off, this is age restricted, so this is not for kids, and this is not for beginners, right? This is not the, hey, come to the event and start your YouTube channel because you have to make content, you have to make your voice. Like, this is none of that. This is, hey, we have a 22-year-old in here that is managing 20 million followers and bringing home $1 million a month, and you're not. Let's get you guys together and figure out what's the closest gap that you guys can either work together, support each other, or make this a mechanism in your business, right? And there's a great event that's kind of going around right now that's helping people understand that you don't have to be the video guy, right? You could be the guy who's simply documenting on X, Twitter, or growing yourself on LinkedIn. But it's like, you need to be expanding your reach, not in a way where it's like you just need to be posting more. It's, look, if you're an entrepreneur like myself, I've barely got the time of day as it is, just like you, just like a lot of people. You need to have a system in place, a system where you're able to jot down your ideas, content, information, expertise, and you have a team that's publishing and redistributing it and making this kind of flywheel, this machine that is growing your brand. And it doesn't have to be, okay, well, we're hitting an extra 10, 20, 30,000 followers. It's, hey, we're getting your expertise in front of the people that matter. That's the entire purpose of content, right? We're getting your expertise, whether that's 100 people, whether that's 100,000 people. Everyone's different. If I was someone who go ahead.
So sorry, I'm making sure. If I'm a creator, I mean, if I'm an entrepreneur, I want to get my expertise in front of people that need it.
I want to get myself in front. I want to understand how to build brands, not followings. Right. That's the idea here, right? Like, think about it. One of our creators was able to go from 0 to 1 million subscribers in less than a year. Now they're launching this major hat brand. They have partnerships with Yamaha. Like, there's all of these different people that have able to achieve wealth in such a shorter time frame than we are, because they focused on getting attention first and building brands first and building the business second. Right. And here's entrepreneurs. I see all of our friends and they're struggling to get past like 5,000, 6,000 followers on YouTube because they're like, I just don't get it. And it's because, again, they're making this boring entrepreneurial, like, very education. Here's 5 different ways you can crush SMMA, when it's like, we need to be building brands. There's a reason that Iman Gadzhi is making an extra $15 million a year from his YouTube channel. There's a reason Graham Stephan is bringing in $4 million a year right now. Right? Like, there's a reason. It's because they built brands, they built an audience, they were very tactical with it. They weren't just, let's post content and see what happens. Right? So we can agree that there is a circadian, there's a rhythm to the frequency of how we post, the narrative of how we post, and the brands we're hoping to build. And that is exactly what the Fuck CreatorFest is going to help you do.
Got it.
To sit down, lock in, and say, how do I leave this event with a brand? And how do I take that brand and monetize it?
Okay. Now, flip it. For the creator.
So for the creator, a lot of creators have followers. Now, followers, as we said earlier, are losing value, right? Or they may have a brand, but they're getting burnt out. They don't have the resources, or they don't have the expertise to bring in a team to understand how to optimize production, to build out SOPs. And so now, flipping it for the creator side, we also have entrepreneurs like Eddie Malouf, who's done over $1 billion in sales online, walking through, here's how we built out a content empire. Here's how we had the operational protocols, the editors, the whole 9 yards in place. So there's basically a for creators stage and a for entrepreneurs stage. And you're going to be learning at both, kind of the flip of the other, right?
And so the for entrepreneur stage will be teaching content brand, and the for creator stage will be teaching entrepreneurship business.
Exactly. And I firmly believe that the word entrepreneur falls under a brand. Like, a brand is something that is built with entrepreneurship under it. It's built with systems. It's a business. A brand is a business. Followers is a number.
Yeah.
right? So for creators, it's learning how to build brands by
Yep.
leaving behind followers. For entrepreneurs, it's learning how to build brands by building content machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you? I'm curious. Who are you gearing it? I mean, it's Creator Fest, so I assume you're gearing it more towards creators.
In a way, yes, but I honestly think it's the same for both. Like the way
Yeah.
that we've designed the stages, man, we have such an awesome lineup of speakers. I mean, we even
Well,
have
have
it
you
where
thought
we
about
have.
getting Hermosi?
So I actually have. I'm good friends with Hermosi's booking manager, and I can't deny or
Confirm.
accept that we
Yeah.
may confirm, that we may be in talks. We just launched our first wave of speakers. We have 8 published so far, but there's going to be 40 speakers in total at this event, and each tier is going to get better than the last. So right now, our first round of speakers is there. We've already got a stellar lineup, and it's only going to get better.
Nice. That's awesome. How much? For my own sanity or my own brain here, how much brain power goes into this? Like,
Dude,
gosh, I can't imagine.
Josh, I can't fucking sleep. I'm gonna be honest. Like
Yeah.
I have dreams about this event. Like I wake up and I bleed this event, right?
Yeah.
And it's been
It shows, by the way. It does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But the narrative here is that like I'm a huge fan of Mr. Beast. I love Mr. Beast content, but the events that we're going against have creators like Mr. Beast, right? Of that caliber, with that many followers, with that many fans. And so for us to be the no names and to try to get people to steer away and say, hey, check out this thing too, maybe come to both. There's nothing wrong with that. But to come check us out too, it's like we have to be so much more tactical with the approach and the attack plan of how we do this. We have to be so much more tactical with the experience of how we do this. And so I can't be as simple as like, okay, let's get some great speakers on stage. Let's get some awesome sponsors. Let's get a cool hotel and call it a day. It's like, okay, how do we engineer an experience where every attendee, no matter their follower rate, no matter their income, no matter their expertise, is able to have a different experience where they can kind of choose their own adventure, but still get the result they're coming from. If we only engineer this event where it's like, if you add 100,000 followers, this will get you to 1 million, then we failed. If we only engineered this event to where it's like, if you have no followers, we're going to get you 100K, then we failed, right? It's a festival because it needs to navigate these paths for everyone individually and get them there. And so, dude, I have it where I'm so lucky that we have an all-star team at Clever to manage all of our events. Because if not, like I would not have the time and resources necessary to pull this.
Well, you couldn't. I mean, it's impossible. You have to have someone with your knowledge and expertise and the team behind it. How are you selling tickets? Like, what's the primary?
So we actually are launching today, which is exciting. So we did a real launch. Woo! Did a big prayer last night, and effectively our biggest launch strategy right now is transparently, it's FOMO, it's conversations. Events work best when you simply can't go to them or you've heard of them, right? And so all of our speakers are going to be promoting the event. And every attendee that comes to the event is also going to have we want our attendees to also feel just as important as the speakers. So most of the time you come to the event, you see the marketing materials for speakers and you call it a day. Where CreatorFest, what we did is every attendee that comes to the event, once you buy your ticket, you get what's called a creator card. And a creator card is basically an image that kind of serves as a media kit for you. So it's something that you can put on your stories and it says, I'm Josh Forti. Here's how big my audience is on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, etc. And it's like all in one beautiful image. And now when people go to your Instagram page, they can see that first up and they'd be like, oh, I have a much clearer idea of Josh and what he's working with and whether I want to work with him from a brand standpoint, right? So that is branded with CreatorFest branding to a certain degree. And so every attendee is going to have that creator card. They're going to get to post it. And then they also get a link where if they sell a ticket through their link, that person that gets $50 off and they get $50 back. So it's not just like, oh, like, I'm just going to the event. It's like, okay, I'm also part of the event now. Like I have the ability to make commissions back to build the brand of it. And so that's a big idea. The second approach that we're taking is we have prepared a vicious amount of content of just the work that's gone into this. So we have documented every moment of the behind the scenes, from us closing the hotel to the very first deal of me and Patrick in that bar. Like all of it's been documented, and we're going to be releasing it almost daily as like hey, whether you believe in this event, whether you buy a ticket or you don't, you can still watch us build this thing. And you are not, it's not a business. It's a brand. It's a person. You're watching me in real time almost kill myself to make this event,
But
So it's like,
I think that how much are tickets, by the way?
so we have two classes of tickets. And what's awesome about tickets is that these competing events all start at about like $800 to $1,000. And they don't include food, by the way, and they're only 2 days. Our event is 4 days in total. And we have it where just the GA to get access to the event starts at $500, no brainer. And then the VIP, which includes food and we have all these editing sponsorships and everything. So for the VIP, we have it where like all of the tools you use as a creator, like your auto share platforms, your backup, your file recovery softwares, your auto posters, all of that, like that's included with VIP too. So you're already getting all the tools on top of that, and that's $1,000. And so
wait, hold on. It's only 1,000.
it's
Only double
only
and you get
1,000.
food.
Exactly, only double and you get
Bro,
food.
why would literally anyone buy a $500 ticket?
That's what I'm saying, right?
Okay.
So that's the cool thing about this, and we've designed it where there's no like early bird outfits or anything like that. There's simply 3 tiers of pricing, and so when tier 1 sells out, all of the prices move up by about 30%, and then tier 2, and then tier 3, and so essentially the final prices land at like $750 and $1,250. But even at those prices, we're still cheaper than our competition, providing almost triple as much.
And I think going back to what you said, and I think that's a great point to kind of tie everything together with it, is when you're releasing this document or this documentation and this content and these videos of like you building it. I've spent an annoying amount of time studying human psychology and studying, movements and that have launched and, things of that and brands and whatnot. And it's like, at the end of the day, like people buy identity, right?
Yeah.
Like we know this. And the best brands, I think the most powerful brands that are not, monopolies, right? But like they have a face, right? They have an identity. It's why I just bought a Tesla, right? Like I bought a Tesla because I think Elon Musk is cool. Like that is why I bought a Tesla. And like it's awesome and I love it and the car is the most amazing car I've ever driven, but I bought it because of Elon, right? And like I like football, but I'm not really a football fan. I'm a Tom Brady fan, right? And like I'm a Joe Rogan fan, right? Like it's like we buy this identity. And when you're building movements, anytime you're getting, communities and groups of people together, like they have to be able to resonate with and see someone that they want to become like. And I feel like you, particularly with your personality style and how, much practice and stuff you've done with this, you're someone that I think even the people that might not be like, I'm just like Icon or whatever, like they can see themselves in it, right? Like it's inspiring and they can see when you play all of the different roles. And so that is really cool. I'm excited to watch you kind of like unroll that all. But like, how intentional is... Go ahead. Yeah, go.
No, I'm sorry. No,
I was going to say, how intentional is that?
Yeah, I think that essentially, when I think about intentionality, I really firmly believe, like, at the end of the day, man, I'm making this content just for the 10-year-old version of myself.
Yeah.
I'm making it for the person, because if I'm asking people to come to this event and believe in their passion, to say, hey, you're a creator, you're an entrepreneur, and you can be that individual who launches that brand, you're an entrepreneur who can build a content empire around your entire ecosystem, then I'm asking you to do a lot. And how can I ask you to do a lot if I myself haven't done a lot for you? Yeah. And so when I open this event, I've already got the visual in my head down to a science, Josh. The event's going to open. There's going to be 1,000 people in this room, and they're going to sit there. And the very first video that's going to open up is going to be the video of me closing this hotel and putting the deposit down and looking at my hands and saying, what did I just do? And then the following videos seconds later are going to be the first ticket sale and me jumping around saying, hell yeah. And then it's going to shake to the first handshake of the first sponsor. And it's going to be this journey so that when people open this event, they can know, hey, this guy had nothing and he made it happen. I can too. Yeah. And when we start the event like that, then there's nothing we won't be able to do together.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I can't think of a better way to end it than right there. I do have some rapid fire questions and some stuff to kind of...
I love your rapid fires.
Like hit it with. But dude, before we do that, thank you for coming on. And thank you. Actually, I have one more question that's a perfect transition into this. How can I and others that want to, but me specifically, how can I help you? How can we serve you and make this more of a reality?
Yeah, really the biggest thing is just getting the word out. So you can follow us CreatorFest live on all platforms, no spaces or anything, just one whole word jumble. just supporting the brand, just following along the journey and just engaging with the content. Even if you plan on getting a ticket and maybe this interests you, or maybe it just doesn't, it's just having people to say, we don't want this to be a Icon thinks this is a good idea and let's do it.
Yeah.
I want to build this event around you, the audience, Josh, all of you. And so I'd love in our content that we have planned coming out, we have opportunities. We're going to say like, hey, what are some great add-ons that we can do to make this event even better? And, attending an audience participation is just what makes the most. So basically the best thing is just following along and just sharing the content.
Yep.
So if you're a dreamer like me and you want to rally behind a dreamer, just enjoy the brand, enjoy the journey, and hopefully come and see us in person August.
Yeah, and you are a dreamer, bro. I love it. I love it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Rapid fire questions. What is one bucket list item that you have not yet accomplished in your life? And I'm going to put a caveat. Can't be start a YouTube channel because we already know that.
Yeah, great one. I want to, this is actually super easy. I want to hug a great white. I want to give it a hug.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just think about how cool that would be to say, like, I hugged a great white.
Like in the wild?
Yeah, like in the wild. Like you get out there and you like give it a little hug, Like, can you see exactly?
I mean, bro, this is why I like you. Like, there's no part of me that's like, let's go hug a. I mean, maybe, I guess. Maybe if I were like, I don't know, if I was hanging out with Icon, and we're out there in the water, and I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
all right,
there's guys who document these sharks and they have no protection, so they know something I don't. Okay, and so if they could do it, I could do it.
There you go.
And someone has to hug it. So
all right. Who's one person that you want to meet in real life? Like,
man, that YouTuber that I invited, that I met 10 years ago. Like, I'm getting through like the archives of the internet to find his contact because I want him to be at this event. Like, that's the person I want here. So that I can have him on stage and I can just be like, I did it. I built the business. I'm done now.
Okay, so let's go besides him, like for the event.
Fictional character?
No. Real person.
Just anyway.
Real person, like that's alive, that like you want to sit down, like a hero or like a celebrity or like an entrepreneur or a political figure or anyone. Like, just who's one person you like really want to meet before you die?
Yeah, I think James Spader from The Blacklist, and he was also the voice of Ultron in Avengers. If you ever just look up like James Spader montage on YouTube, I fully believe that guy is single-handedly the best monologue storyteller in history. And the way he speaks is something I can only hope to get 1% of. So hopefully one day I've got a podcast as big as yours and I can bring him on.
All right. What's one core value that you have?
Strange but effective.
Strange but
effective. Like, I have no idea how the hell that worked, but hey, it worked.
Strange but effective. All right. One book you think everybody should read?
This is going to be so people are going to hate this answer, but I know you love that. The Game by Neil Strauss. So The Game.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The Game by Neil Strauss. And the reason being is that everyone reads that book or they just see the title of it and they think it's like a story about pickup artists, but it really is a book about human dynamics and how to handle conversation, how to interact with others, and also how to control your dynamic in a room. And it works on men, it works on women. And it's a really great book. It's an amazing story. Whatever your values might be, whether they use it for good or not, it's a very interesting story. So I think everyone should read it. Yeah.
All right. Last question, deep, meaningful question. And you've actually had a near-death experience. So you're on your deathbed. You can think back to that for you. You're on your actual deathbed. You're at the end of your life. And everyone that you've been called to touch, everyone that you feel like you've been called to impact, not everyone that you've ever associated with, but like specifically the people you feel called to make an impact on. They're going to forget everything that you tell them. However, you get to leave them with one final message or piece of advice. And the caveat is like they will believe it at face value and like act on it accordingly, right? Like you don't need any justification. Like they're gonna be like, cool, leave them with this message. They're gonna believe it. What's the message?
Oh, that's a great question, Josh. I would have to say, set fire to everything. And what I mean by that is, if I would have gone back to just that moment where I made the decision to run a business and I would have just said, hey, I'm just going to make a ridiculous amount of YouTube content. I'm going to make just as many YouTube videos. I recklessly set fire to everything. I'm just going to throw it in every direction possible. I was watching Mr. Beast when he had under 10,000 subscribers, and I could have been someone who was at that level had I just stuck to the plan and set fire to everything. And I didn't. I let logic and reasoning and all of these other outside advice change my perspective. And so if I look back, it's like, and if I was just to tell everyone everything, it's like, just set fire to everything else and just go, you know, set fire to everything.
Icon Becker, ladies and gentlemen. Icon, thank you so much. It's CreatorFest.events and
CreatorFest.events.
CreatorFest
And
Live on social. Yes? We'll link them down below. Thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it. And guys, with that, yet another episode in the books. We'll see you next time. Peace.